first off, that's wrong. It should say, speak what we feel. If you recognize it, it's from Lear. Speak what we feel, not what we ought to say. And what I'm going to talk about is how it is my personal opinion, but I've started saying it out loud rather a lot now, that unless women start not just speaking out, but speaking out with their full voices and being in touch with what they're feeling as they say it, the world's never going to come right. Just slightly cliched way of saying, you know, men are trained to be manly, they're trained to go out front, they're trained to assert with their voice, they're trained to think in a linear fashion. This is, I know it's a real generalization, but just try it on for size. Probably most men in here have rebelled against that masculine definition, but women are meant to be intuitive and holding back slightly, and yes, being the feeling person, but not thrusting their voices out there. You know, I'm a Shakespeare director, so I spend all my time with Shakespeare's plays, either as an actor or as a director. And so I have learned things as I go along about what Shakespeare says about this, and he's probably my driving force. If we do not, and I mean we women, if we do not assert, if we do not put out what it is that we feel, I think the world's never going to come straight, because there's always going to be a predominance of male voices, not female voices. And I mean a full voice. I mean, just think for a moment. If Elizabeth Warren had a full voice instead of her, I am very clever, good girl voice, she would be president by now. If Hillary hadn't done her, I'm a very good girl too, and I'm not going to tell everybody in the world how I feel about Bill messing around. If she had done that, half the women of the world would have joined with her. And she would have actually shifted the way women were perceived. Instead, she's standing by her man and she's saying nothing. Do you understand? It's a slightly... so women are speaking out much more, but I'm asking, especially the women in the room, to come out with your voice. Also from Lear, Lear says at the end of the play, when Cordelia's dead, she had a voice ever soft and low, an excellent thing in a woman. Well, if he bloody well listened to Ophelia, I'm getting my characters mixed up. If he'd have listened to Cordelia at the top of the play, when she told him how it was, and if she had asserted herself even more than she did, he wouldn't end up dead, and neither would she. I mean, she's brave enough to come back from France and bringing an army with her. Why is her accolade, she had a voice soft and low, an excellent thing in a woman? And you know, the Queen just died of England. And, you know, she had this lovely voice, but it was all here. And you knew it was the Queen speaking to you because you'd heard it for years and years. But if she'd actually tapped into her voice, well, it would have shifted things. I mean, she did a good job. I don't want to but she did do a good job. If we could have understood a little more deeply about how she actually felt without her having to tell us the story of how she felt. Do you understand the difference? Is the difference between the embodied voice, which is in touch with what you're saying, that actually is allowing yourself to be heard on many levels, instead of the voice you're trained with, or the one that... I played Dora in David Copperfield a long time ago, but I played Dora, and she was Daddy's little girl, you know, and she did everything that Dodie asked her to, and then she dies. Of course she bloody dies. You know? And with her dying words, she says, Dodie, I want you to marry... Oh, I've forgotten what the other woman's name was. It was Hannah Gordon who was playing it. I remember that bit. But anyway, she passes Dodie, Ian McKellen playing David Copperfield, off to the other woman and says that will be good. And she's a very serious, also rather quiet woman. But that's her dying wish, is you should marry her. And I mean, I loved playing her because it was different from me. And I loved having a lisp and I loved doing, but it doesn't get you anywhere, because if you don't, it doesn't get the woman anywhere if what you want to do is shift the world. And I think we're all now feeling the urgency that we have to shift the world. When you look at the whole spectrum of Shakespeare's plays, had directed about 2/3 of them by the time I started realizing this, that there's a trajectory to his writing. So when he's a young man, he's writing Taming of the Shrew, and the woman is a shrew, and she's got to be shut up. And by the end of the play, she does shut up, and then she can have a happy marriage. You have to remember, Shakespeare was a very young man when he was writing this story. Look at Joan of Arc, another early character. She speaks out. He kind of loves her in the beginning, but then she's out there doing terrible things to the English. And anyway, what are we going to do if a woman really is a good military leader? We've got to burn her at the stake. So she speaks and she gets burnt at the stake. And so in Shakespeare's early plays, he's talking about the women who speak out and then they get done in. And then the women start shifting in his writing and he gets sexual passion. So we go to Romeo and Juliet. And you know, Juliet is actually, she talks even more than Romeo does, and she is in touch with what she's saying. But all her energy goes towards her love for Romeo and his to her. And what you see is when a man and a woman truly love each other on equal terms, that passion can change the world. Now, it's also true they end up dead, as do both of them. It's also true the other plays, which are like this, you know, Troilus and Cressida, Antony and Cleopatra, that have two lovers and have become our archetypes for who lovers are. You know, even if you've never seen Romeo and Juliet, you know who they are, or Antony and Cleopatra. But in their equality, the power of what they're able to achieve together means they're going to end up dead. It's true. So Shakespeare was getting wiser. Then in the third section of his writing life, he's actually seeing if women disguise themselves as men, they actually can say what they like. They can organize the whole spectrum of characters, and it all comes out right. You know, so in Twelfth Night, in As You Like It, Rosalind organizes the whole of society. You can't shut her up, but she's allowed, because she's in man's clothes, to speak as much as she likes. Whereas before, when she was in women's clothes, she hardly said a word. Her cousin Celia says much more. Once she's in disguise, she has the freedom to speak out. The moment she has the freedom to speak out, she actually can get out there. The fourth part of Shakespeare's writing life is when the women want the same as the men, and they're only interested in power, which is Lady Macbeth and Volumnia, and then it's wholesale fascism in the country. There's no voice, no woman's voice to stop. And then in the last part of Shakespeare's writing life, he's actually saying, we've got to do what the women say. So if you have a play like Winter's Tale, which is one of my favorite plays, you've got Hermione being accused of infidelity. She speaks well on her own behalf, but it's a trial. And her husband, although he's not meant to be, is judge and jury. And at that moment, when she's being judged, her boy, the young masculine voice, is reported as dead. So I just want you to see how it works out in abstract terms, if you will. And then Paulina, who's called the witch, comes on and absolutely not only reads him the riot act, you know, what studied torments tyrant hast for me, you know. So she pages. And at the end of that, he says, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. And he serves her for the next 15 years. In the meantime, the baby daughter, who got thrown out on the hillside to die, is taken up by shepherds and brought up in nature. She then is able to start redeeming the whole thing, just with, you know, she's over in Bohemia. But by the time she comes back and has made her alliance with the young man, so we have that sexual spiritual merging again, and aided by Paulina, who's actually kept Hermione alive for all these things, all these years. And it means Leontes can actually deeply say, I'm sorry, have his daughter, and the daughter redeems the father. Are you with me? That it's the daughter speaking out, it's the witch or the creative figure in the Tempest, Ariel, speaking out, that actually can change the story. So this is one of the reasons why I started getting this idea in my head that women had got to start speaking out. So how do you speak out? What is it that you do? Well, you actually start speaking with the whole of your body, not just this little bit up here. You actually make sure that people are hearing what you say. And of all, you know, we understand the world through our sensory perceptions, you know, sight, taste, smell. But hearing is the only one that's in a loop, because when you speak out, that stimulates thought and feeling in other people, and then they respond to you. It's got a loop to it. Do you understand me? Whereas if you see something stunningly beautiful and you're using your visual sense, you're just staring at it. Or you might say, oi, come here, isn't that fantastic? But you're not exchanging. If you smell, unless you say yum, 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 taste this, but if you smell, that stays with you. Do you understand me? But the speaking, the physical speaking, means we go backwards and forwards all the time. So inherent within speaking out is allowing other people to get in dialogue, and it's through dialogue that we can start working out. Now, the Elizabethans also thought there was a sixth sense, which was, we would probably say, intuition. Now, in other words, that you knew something very simply. I want to just try and show you what I mean about speaking with the whole of your body. Is there some woman that is brave enough to get up here with me and let me work on you a little bit? Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay. What's your name?
Nerissa.
Nerissa, as in, yes. Oh, good, Nerissa. Are you a Shakespeare fan, Nerissa?
My mother was.
Oh, okay. Of course. But Nerissa is
the only reason I got up. My husband kept squeezing my hand.
Yeah. Now, did you just see what she did? She gave the authority of her standing up here to her husband. That is great. Nerissa, do you mind if I put my hand? Do you mind if I touch you?
No.
Okay. So can you just turn around here for a moment?
Sure.
Now, just look out there. I know we can't see everybody,
okay.
but you can get the sense of them out there.
Yeah, that I've humiliated myself in front of these people.
So Nerissa, yes. Can you close your eyes for a moment and just think about the humiliation? Allow yourself to feel the humiliation. Okay. Right, stay with your eyes closed. And can you bring your breath right down here? And can you stop clamping your jaw shut? Okay, so we're gonna try and see if we can allow the body to be the resonating chamber for what it is you want to say. And can you just describe to me what's happening to you physically?
Relaxing.
Yeah, well, no, or do you feel nervous, or do you, how?
I am a little nervous. I feel a little sweaty. Is that what you're asking?
Okay, well, don't keep on coming back to me or him. All right. So you can open your eyes again.
Yeah.
Now notice you clamped your jaw shut again as soon as I asked you to open your eyes. So we close ourselves off. I'm not going to say what I really want, but I may say it if I can say it sweetly. Okay.
I'm so glad I volunteered.
Yeah. Now, Nerissa, can you think of one thing that you'd really like to change in this world?
Yes.
What is it?
That we weren't so divisive as a country.
Okay,
Does that work?
so can you say that I wish we weren't so divisive as a country?
I wish we weren't so divisive as a country.
Okay, now just say divisive. And
Divisive.
Okay, but I want you to say it down here as well. Don't breathe through your nose because that cuts off feeling. I know that's what you do in
Really?
yoga, but
Yeah.
in acting, you let go of the jaw and you breathe through your mouth because that gives you a faster emotional response. So we're looking to tap into our feelings, not put our feelings aside.
Okay.
Just say divisive.
Divisive.
And now just put it right out there.
Divisive.
That's right, even louder. Divisive.
Divisive.
Oh, that's right. And just see if you can bring it right down here. Divisive.
Divisive.
Now, tell me what comes up for you as you say that. Here I am bullying you. And,
Yes.
And why do you what? You've got so many laughs. You could earn a living as a stand-up comic, you know. So what happens to you as I ask you to do these things? What comes up for you?
I feel like I'm just being a good girl and doing what you tell me to do.
Well, I'm glad you are.
My mother would be shocked.
Your mother would be shocked?
Yes.
So how did your mother want you to behave?
Oh, she wanted me to be a quiet,
quiet, good
I was
girl.
not the good girl.
Yeah. And did you rebel against that?
Yes.
Of course, good. But you realize your mum is still in there
Oh, yeah.
telling you that you should be... see, I mean, this is not an unusual story. This is not. So you've got your mother's voice or your father's voice asking you to have a voice soft and low, like Leah says to Cordelia, when she's dead. Doing great. Can you feel...
I'm not an actress. This is
Well,
difficult for me.
Well, I know, but you're earning your money, aren't you?
Okay.
But it's using the actor's tools, if I can say that, in order to free the voice. Because we've been, it's thousands of years now we've had this inculcation of, you know, be a quiet, good girl.
Right.
You know, I had it myself before I got to be a loudmouth. So I just want to acknowledge Nerissa for being so brave coming up here. You know. I get paid to do this, and anyway, as you can see, I really like it. But she doesn't, and but that is what I want from now on, that kind of feeling of I'm going to say what I feel, and I'm going to shift people in what it is that I'm saying.
Gotcha.
Do you think what you have to say, Nerissa, is important?
Yes.
Yes, it is. So if you don't say it and shift people as you say it, even if it's round the dinner table, it's really, really important that we do it. Thank you, my dear. All right, so we could do a whole speech like that. And it takes some, it takes some courage to actually not pretend that you don't mean and feel what you say. You know, it often can be said, all right, I'm going to say it as a joke, or I'm going to say it softly, so at least I've said it, but nobody understands quite what I said, and then I didn't have to expose myself. That fear of exposure is really overwhelming. The fear of possible shame as you speak out can be overwhelming. But here's a hint. If you feel shame, use the shame. If you feel nervous, use the nervousness. And by that, I mean allow yourself to feel what it is that you're feeling. And then as you start to speak, it will actually start transforming. That energy that would have cut you off before will start transforming into the next thing you're going to say. And also allow you, if you can, to stay open to what other people are thinking and feeling, so that you can actually get feedback just from their presence. They don't necessarily have to say anything. So I was like asking Nerissa to just speak out there into the void. But in fact, she was touching people still. So men, we want you, but women, you've got to speak out. Thank you so much.